Julian from WSOU here today. I'm honored to be joined by guitarist, producer, and the musical mastermind behind Fit for an Autopsy, Better Lovers, and so much more, the Dr. Dre of metal, Will Putney. How's it going, man?
What's up, man? How are you? Thanks for chatting with me.
I'm doing great, man. Really thrilled to be talking with you right now. I've been music director on SOU throughout 2024, and you dropped two phenomenal albums that I love, The Nothing That Is and Highly Irresponsible. Then there's just so much I could go on. I'd just be vomiting words. There's just so much great stuff you've worked on. You're one of the most in-demand producers out there, and you contribute to multiple active and successful bands. What is your secret to handling such a workload? Do you feel like you've always had that ability to juggle all these huge responsibilities, or that you kind of learned as you went along?
Well, thank you, first of all, for all nice words. But yeah, I don't really have like a magical answer for that. Kind of just fell into doing a lot. I think it when you love what you do, it doesn't really feel like work per se. So like I can knock a lot of hours off in the studio and still stay kind of fresh and stuff. I think a lot of it came from just figuring out how to multitask, figuring out like what a deadline really means, and making sure I leave enough time to make so that I'm not doing a disservice to any band or artist or any of my own projects that I work with. It just comes from doing it a lot. You kind of know how much gas you have in the tank and how much time you're going to have to get a project done. And yeah, it's really all of that sounds like I know the answer, but it really truly is just chaos all the time. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm just moving forward with it. But luckily, things have been going well, and bands want to record here, and my bands are growing still. So you can't really complain, even though it gets a bit nutty.
Yeah, man, that's great. And what's your approach to writing? Because you contribute to so many different bands with various sounds. Like, do you just go into a mode like, oh, I'm gonna write some end riffs, or do you just riff and assign it whatever sounds right?
I mean, there's not really like a one size fits all approach to that kind of stuff. If it's a band I'm working with on like a producer co-writing level, it's a little more obvious because it's like, okay, I can sort of see the lane or the identity of that band, be like, what is working for this band? What kind of path should I follow, in that sense? And it's in a way like the pressure's off me a little bit because I'm not making my own music. It's like I'm looking at a project sort of from outside the fishbowl and being like, it's more like solving a problem in my head, different kind of challenge, than when you're writing for like your own projects and stuff. It's like, well, what is like my voice supposed to be in the context of this genre or this music or whatever? So I obviously I feel like it's a little more challenging when I'm working on my own projects, but luckily, I think the birth of a lot of the different musical endeavors I do came from sort of having a creative pile of stuff where it's like, okay, I want to, this may not necessarily work for this band, but I want to make music like this also, So I think over time, I've just naturally sort of progressed my songwriting to be pretty focused on what is this project? What's the identity of it? And I can kind of break it down in my head, but I don't really write and then a riff or like a part comes up and it winds up in another project. That I don't even, it's very rare that that happens. Usually I'm really just like kind of head down on what I'm working on at the moment.
Gotcha. And then last year, Fit for an Autopsy put out The Nothing That Is. Got some very good acclaim, very dark and visceral, with tracks like Red Horizon really invoking stuff in people. Was there any creative approach or method that you or the band did differently with that record as opposed to the
Um,
previous Autopsy ones?
I think the previous album we spent a lot more time on, honestly, because that was like a kind of a COVID record and touring had just come to a stop. And we knew once we realized like, oh, no one's really going out for a while, we kind of realized when the world opened back up, we should probably have a record. So we kind of had like endless time to chip away at that, and that it's not usually how I write. Usually, I kind of like to just focus and get the idea out of my head and put it down, and there it is. I'm definitely a more in the moment kind of songwriter, and I think the last record we spent a ton of time on. I'm definitely proud of that record, but I didn't love that I had forced myself to obsess over it for so long. So this is like the quickest record we ever made. Um, it was just like more sort of mental preparation about, okay, I know I want stuff like this. I want a song that feels like this. I want to write about this topic. So like before I even went into writing that record, in my head I just kind of knew what to do, and then it just came together so efficiently. It was cool. It was like way more thinking about music before actually writing music this time. A lot of times it's like I'll sit down with a guitar for a long period of time and sort of tinker until I find the thing I'm looking for. This time it was like I was just knocking out songs like every day. I just knew what to do, in that sense, and I love it. Like I'm super happy with the way it came out. I feel like I got everything in that I wanted to for this record. So it was like two really different processes actually. And I prefer the last one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then in some other interviews, you said that Fit for an Autopsy's name came from one of the members' previous bands, and that you're not too thrilled with it. I think it's a fine name, but when I was first getting into metal, I would always confuse it with Fit for a King. And there's even a band,
Yeah.
yeah, and
What are you gonna do?
there's even a band, Annotations of an Autopsy. Have you or the band ever really ran into anything with that name coincidence? Like maybe even considered doing the most confusing co-headlining tour ever or something?
No, I mean we're friends, and it's just funny. We have some more band names. I didn't name this band, and it's not my favorite band name. But what are you gonna do? It's stuck now, so it's fine. It could be worse, so that's all good. It's just a name. It's not the music.
And can you tell me about how your involvement with Better Lovers came into place? Did they already have that name before you joined, or was it kind of like everybody came together to kind of decide on it?
Better Lovers was sort of the continuation of Steve and Jordan and Goose's previous band. Like once that kind of came to an end, they didn't really stop. They just knew they were going to continue to be a band and just figured out get a new singer. And I was sort of in the mix early anyway because I had produced their previous records. And at the time, Andy Williams was still a part of the project too. So it was like four of them, and then I was just like jamming on songs with them. And the plan was we were just going to make sort of like an instrumental EP kind of thing and shop it around to some singers, try some people out, do that whole thing. And then through the course of making that EP, I think it became like pretty clear like Andy wasn't going to do the project before the EP started, and then I knew I was like, okay, well, it's just I'll help. Like they were down one guitarist. Jordan was sort of doing all the heavy lifting on the EP at that point, and it was like, well, I'll just help and throw some ideas into, and it kind of just progressed naturally. I've known those guys long enough where it was kind of we didn't even really have to have a long winded convo about any of it. Once Greg came into the fold as a potential singer, I was like, hey, if I'll do this, if Greg does this band too, because he's obviously a singer I looked up to, and I think he's one of the best frontmen in the world, So I was like, all right, if I'm gonna do a band like for real, these would be the guys I'd want to do it with, At this point in my life and stuff, they're all some of my favorite players, and they're great dudes, and yeah, it just happened naturally, But that was like all born out of like, yeah, I was just gonna demo some songs with them, and hopefully we look for a singer, and then by the end of it, here we are.
Yeah, all unreal musicians, especially Greg. How do you feel the dynamic of Better Lovers has changed now that you guys have been doing a lot of tour dates together and stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's been really cool to play Better Lover shows and see that like a lot of the fans there aren't just there because they were fans of previous bands and stuff. Like it was sort of like, all right, there's dudes from pretty iconic bands in this world. Um, that's going to just like sort of get it off the ground and carry it. And then the goal was to sort of like get past that and be like, let's, can we be our own thing? I don't want it to, and I don't, nobody super groupie, like that stuff always feels like cringy. And it was like, we just want to do a band. Like, we don't want to be, nobody in this band wants to kind of ride on the victories of their previous projects or anything. It was all about moving forward and making our own thing. And now like the music started coming into its own with its own identity, and like could see from the base of the fans that it's like it's cool. We actually just have Better Lovers fans who discovered Better Lovers, then don't care about what everybody else did in the past. So that was like that's been a really cool progression. I think that gets everybody in the band very excited because it's like, cool, we did it. We got over that hill of like the ex members of this and that, and now we can just be our own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are a super group, but it doesn't look that way. You guys really just are your own band, just with members with incredible resumes. And I actually discovered Better Lovers and got into Every Time I Die from Better Lovers.
Oh, there you go. That's
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like a newer generation of kids. Like we've been trying to make it a point to take out newer bands and younger bands too. And um, there's a lot of kids who go to shows who just weren't around for some of that stuff anyway. So it's cool to finally like have our own identity. I feel like you just need to get through the first record and the first EP and then the full length. And now it's like, cool, we're not going anywhere. It wasn't just a one off thing. I think people kind of realize like, oh, cool, this is the band now.
yeah, absolutely. And you guys definitely did find your identity with Highly Irresponsible from last year. Our listeners are incredibly familiar with it. I played it a lot. The whole album is complete fury, except for one little mellow track, At All Times, which honestly might be my favorite, even though it's diverse from the rest of it. Whose idea was that track and how did it come together at all times?
At all times, we spent a bunch of time at the studio just writing at the top of the year before that record came out, and we wrote a lot. We had a ton of songs, and it was just like the more songs we wrote, the more stuff we would try that was a little more adventurous. So like, all right, let's try a song like this. We already got a song like this. Like, we don't need another one of those. Let's do one like this. So we were just having fun, seeing what we could do. Which is cool. It's like this first time we were really like, we're a new band. We're all together. We're gonna write a record from scratch for the first time. So it was like, can we do a song like this? Like, yeah, I guess we can. Like we were sort of a little more adventurous because it was fun. And At All Times came out of that. I think I had a part and Jordan had a part, and it just came together really fast. That was like a song I think in a day. It was just kind of dusted. Um, and we were like, well, it sounds a little different, but everybody likes it. So, and I guess let's see what the vocals do. And, Greg did a great job on that song. We're like, yeah, I mean, this is going on the record. Um, and yeah, it's fun. We play it live pretty much every day too, like on the last tour, and went over well. It just lets me breathe on stage, which I like. But it's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll always probably throw curveballs. I feel like it just keeps things interesting and stuff. And that was like one version of it where it just kind of worked for all of us. Everyone was happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you guys have a Europe tour coming up, I believe. Do you guys have anything else planned for the future you could tell me about? Maybe a release, anything like that? I know you just
Yeah,
gave us
so
something, but we want more.
we've got a couple Warp Tour dates this year. We're gonna do the LA one and the Long Beach one and the Orlando one. And we're probably looking to play some shows around those. I think those should be announced pretty soon. If they probably will maybe be announced by the time this is airing. So uh those are the US dates we have for now. And I think we're probably gonna kick around some album ideas this summer, and then in the fall we're in Europe for like 5 weeks. And then probably after that we're looking at doing another lap around America too. So I think we'll hit some dates before our Christmas show at the end of the year, and be good to hit some spots. There's some cities in America we haven't quite gotten to yet. Like some places we haven't even played Long Island like once in our career. Like things like that where it's like, okay, we gotta like get to some of these areas at some point here. So I think we're gonna look to get into some of those sort of on uncharted markets for us in the fall, and then we've got our Christmas show at the end of the year. Um,
Yeah,
so and
Blissmas, right?
top of the year, there's more shows. So like we're pretty busy. There's some stuff I can't really talk about yet, but there's we only have this little break here, and then it's like go time again.
Yeah, and the Christmas show you're talking about is Blissmas, right? Didn't you guys have
Yeah,
live wrestling during that last time?
we did, and we'll have it again this year. Andy Williams always puts together a fun show for that. Yeah, I don't know what the card looks like for that yet, but it was crazy last year. So I'd imagine that's going to be pretty fun again.
Yeah, for sure. Can't wait to hear all that news about Better Lovers. Is there anything on the horizon for End? Any show dates, materials? I know you're quite busy.
Yeah, it's not just me. Those everybody's busy now. Counterparts is having a pretty cool moment. They've just been nonstop touring too. So Better Lovers and Counterparts have been out a lot. And then when we're not, the Casey Strain's also been out because Matt, our drummer, plays in the Casey Strain too. So, and then Greg's really busy with studio stuff. This whole year has been just like, you free this day? No. Okay. Anyone free this day? No. Okay. Can we do this fest? No, all right, no problem. And it was just like we got together a couple of weeks ago and did Milwaukee Metal Fest, and it was like one of the few things we could connect on this year. And it was like, we had all kind of sat down and we were like, yeah, I guess we're not doing too much right now, but I know next year we talked about sort of carving some time out for End. We did write some new music, so we are sitting on some stuff, and I'm hoping next year we figure out some windows to get back out there.
Yeah. And with your heavy workload, free time clearly must not come often. But when you do have time to relax, do you have any like non-musical hobbies, things like that?
What am I into now? I mean, I'm like a get out in nature guy when I can. I spent a lot of time in a bandwagon or in a recording studio or nowadays. So it feels nice to just like go in the woods or go on a hike or something. So I don't have too much downtime this year, but I think we're looking at maybe hitting a beach or something. I don't know yet. I tell you what, I don't do during my downtime is listen to music. I'm like I'm one of those guys who drives in silence sometimes, and it's very nice for me. It's very nice. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have enough downtime to have a list for you there, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah. And so much metal history comes from New Jersey, going back to Metallica and the Old Bridge Metal Militia. And now modern metal history is being made by you because some of the greatest heavy music out there has ties to you and your work in Belleville. I grew up in Kearney, right across the river from all that. I think it's pretty remarkable. Can you tell me what New Jersey means to you? Because a lot of us who live here feel pretty bittersweet about it, but there's just so much going on here and so much that's come out.
Oh, I mean, New Jersey's the best worst place for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a character building state for sure. Obviously how densely populated it is. You're exposed to everything pretty early in your life if you're just living in a pretty city like area around here. And I don't know. I like the melting pot of cultures and people and personalities, and I always have. I feel like it keeps you as fresh and smart and sort of aware as possible. I don't think I could ever be someone who's lives segregated from all different walks of life. Whether that's not even talking about race, it's just like opinions, personalities. Like I just like that New Jersey gives you everything. For better or worse, but it does. And I think growing up here taught me a lot about what reality actually is like when you're exposed to different walks of people. As a person who travels and goes on tour and sees a million people everywhere, it's very easy to think you know how the world works when you're in your own bubble. And then all it takes is meeting someone who isn't just like you or traveling to another country and seeing another perspective. And it's just like, oh, I didn't think that way. But so, probably one of my favorite traits of New Jersey is that I feel like you're a better person for experiencing all of that here.
Yeah. And you grew up during a pretty revolutionary time in the world of heavy music, especially right here in Jersey. Can you tell me about your early days playing in bands? Are there any venues that you would frequently play or like specific memories that just stick out to you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel very spoiled for what it was like to be a kid in New Jersey in like 1998 and 1999. I mean, I look back on some of the shows when I was a kid that came through, and it's just incredible, like. And I would attribute a lot of my whatever version of success this is in this world to like I would just kind of just go back to what I just said, just sort of the exposure that I got to all different types of extreme music and subgenres and stuff so early on. I think it gave me like a really cool musical palette. When you're young, you sort of like everything. You're not jaded yet. You don't have like everything is just cool and new and fun. And I think I was able to see everything, like you had Club Chrome with Club A, which turned into Club Chrome, the Birch Hill, M&M Hall, like all these VFWs that were. I mean, it's just like there were endless places for shows, it was so easy to just. I lived in Sayreville, which is right by where like Starland Ballroom is. Like that was kind of where I grew up, and I was within 5 minutes of like 10 venues all the time. It felt like, so it's fantastic. I think maybe the location of Jersey too, like like all the weekend warrior bands who wanted to play New York and Philly and stuff. We were like always the stop between them too. So it's like just the whole tri-state area kind of won in that era, and I think a lot of the East Coast scenes of all these different types of heavy bands as they came up, like they always came through New Jersey. So we got it all. It was great. Very, very spoiled kid in that sense.
Yeah, and growing up as a New Jersey hardcore kid, I'm sure you were quite familiar with WSOU. Do you remember when you first got your work played on SOU or just the radio in general?
Yeah, we did. So yeah, I have all kinds of SIU stories. I remember going to the shows, like all the festivals. I remember I won tickets to a Poison the Well show. I was like the ninth car. I think you had to be was it the 89th car or the ninth car? I don't remember what the number was, but I've won tickets on this radio station many times. Yeah, I mean I remember that for an autopsy when we put out our first I don't know if it was our demo. It was like when we first sort of had music out with what would have been the lineup that did the first few records. We had an interview on WSU, and that's like I think the first time one of my bands actually got played on WSOU too, and it was just awesome. I probably still have the picture somewhere. Like it was in the winter, and we had all these giant jackets on. I can remember the picture like very vividly. This was like the bubble jacket era of uh hardcore fashion, so we looked insane. But it was great. Yeah, we like went into the studio and did the interview, and then we got played on the radio, and that was the first one for me, And over the years, obviously SOU's been great, super supportive of all the projects that I do and the records I make and bands I'm in through all the different DJs and program changes and stuff. It's cool. There's always like somebody was always still interested in what I do, so I've always appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the past, we've had those shows like you guys played. One of them was called like Extreme Altitude, played at a ski resort. That might be the one you're referring to. We're
Was
looking
it
at
like Riverfront Rampage? Is that
yes,
the one?
yes, that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
one
yeah.
too. You've
That was
done
a fun one.
and I've listened to a few of the podcasts you've been on. The episode with Hard Lord is a great one, very funny one. And I think you mentioned that Graphic Nature Studio might be haunted. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I don't know. Bands always think anytime a band sees a light flicker, they think studios are haunted. So I got nothing on the haunted stuff anymore. I think weird stuff happens when you're away from home, sleeping in a weird place like a recording studio for sure. But I don't know. I have all right, there's one or two things that I actually can't explain where I was like, all right, maybe something spooky's happening, but I don't know. I'm sure bands have told their lores enough. I don't know if I have to go that deep anymore. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure because I'm not sure if it's I know too much about how voltage and interference with devices and things work to be spooked by strange noises coming through my speakers now where I'm like, I don't know. But I have gotten some pretty cool gems out of odd glitches, we'll call them, before in studio. So Where I am right now isn't haunted, so we're all good. I live in I'm in the woods with my studio, and it's just now you're just worried about bears and snakes and stuff, not ghosts. So that's good.
Yeah. And you've worked with Ice-T, Body Count, producing that cover, Institutionalized. I've shown that to everyone I know at least once. Thank you for that. And you also worked with Body Count for that song you did with Riley Gale. Power Trip is my favorite band. They inspired me to start my own band, and they've been so instrumental in me growing as a metalhead. Riley Gale really was an unstoppable force, and his power and his messages still resonate with so many people today, especially the youth. Can you tell me what it was like working with him at Body Count when writing Point the Finger?
Yeah, I mean Riley's awesome. Obviously, is super heartbreaking loss for this whole world. Because I really do think he had it all, man. I was fortunate enough to be able to work with him on some form of music at least once in my life. So yeah, that song we had that song kicking around at the studio. And we were talking about features and different people. And Ice T actually was familiar with Power Trip. I think they might have crossed paths at a festival or something too. And I was like, if you want to do Power Trip, let's go do that. Because so do I. So we kind of like he had brought it up. We had kind of like a list of like people we thought could be cool to collab with and stuff. And I was like kind of surprised to even see him on his list. So I was like, oh, that's a shoe in. So the label had reached out. We got in touch with him, kind of had a little somebody had a chat about what the song was about and stuff. And it was kind of like, go nuts, man, run with it. Like you know what to do here. Like you grew up on this stuff too, and um do your thing, and then we'll fill in the gaps on our side. Instead of us writing an idea and giving it to him, we were kind of like, you know what to do, man. And then so he tracked a bunch of stuff and wrote a bunch of lyrics and sent stuff back, and it was awesome. And then we kind of just filled in the gaps on our end, and the song came together like super easy.
Yeah, definitely a phenomenal track. And you've produced so many bands that by now you can tell when a band is ready or not, and if they really have what it takes to make something substantial. Are there any pieces of advice that you can give to musicians and bands out there trying to get on their feet and find their fans? Like maybe some qualities you noticed in the bands that did work out as opposed to the bands that didn't work out?
Yeah, I mean, there's like probably some obvious ones. I don't think I'll ever work with a band if I can't see them live anymore. I think that would probably be the most obvious, but like sort of number one where it's like it's got to translate to the real world, especially like in an age with all this technology, and it's very easy to make a like pro sounding record with a laptop and stuff nowadays. It's sort of can be a veil for like kind of hiding, is this band actually good? Can they play, or did a computer just make this stuff? So I've kind of making a point to try to see bands live now and stuff before I sign on. Other than that, I don't know. I think maybe like trying to not sweat the small stuff when you're putting songs together. Like sometimes I think bands who are maybe first album, second album, and get a little too over obsessed with micro details that really don't translate to like, is this really making the song better? Like I think trying to keep the big picture of like what's important about your music. And then also, what is your identity? Are there's a oversaturation of bands in every genre of heavy music right now. So to stand out, you kind of have to do something that somebody else isn't doing, or be like really, really good at a familiar thing. So it's like really knowing who you are, the type of music you want to play, and like what is your lane, what is your goal, having that vision. Does the vision for the music you're making actually, is it translating to, is that message being received by people correctly? Can it be better in that sense? I think, trying to be something you're not usually kind of you kind of see through that after a while. I think those bands sort of go by the wayside, or the bands that chase what's popular, they never quite become the band. There's always the band chasing the other thing. So sort of just like knowing what you are and what makes you different from another band. I think it's really important. I think it's lost on a lot of people when they first start a band. They're just excited. They want to play music. They want to be like this band, you know, and it can quickly just kind of take a weird turn too. So, I mean, I think, you know, all that stuff to me, it feels kind of obvious, but I feel like it's hard to remember that when you're going through all these motions is that when you're just getting a band off the ground and stuff.
Yeah. And do you feel like there's any misconceptions that a lot of people might have about what a music producer does?
Um, yeah, maybe. I don't really know. I mean, I know, yeah, I think it's a role where people are just like, oh, so you just, the band comes in and you just hit the record button. And it's like, well, there's a little more than that. You know, I think the confusion between what a recording engineer and a record producer are has been blurred over time, especially because a lot of record producers are also engineers. But there's this whole creative side to it that, you know, some of the best producers in the world don't touch the buttons because they are smart enough to know that guy might be better at it, so they hire someone else to do it. You know, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a weird job to explain to people who aren't from this world. They don't quite get it, you know. But I don't care. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the favorite album question might be a little bit done. So I'm going to ask you what your favorite EP of all time is. If you could tell me that, or at least the top three.
Favorite EP of all time. Ooh. What do I like? Let me think. Well, okay, there was a series of EPs when they came out that I really liked them. Those the Thrice Alchemy Index EPs. Um, they were just cool. Off the top of my head, the Fire and Water one specifically, I was just like all in on those. I just thought those were awesome. I used to be a huge Thrice guy, and those did it for me for sure. Um, First Blacklisted EP is pretty good. The Whole Conspiracy EP. There's so many hardcore EPs. I'm just like cycling, trying to pick my favorite one. Trap Them EP's pretty good. I don't know, man. There's too many EPs. I can't
Yeah,
pick one.
there's
Yeah,
a
I
lot
always
of
have
great
this.
ones.
What's your favorite question is always tough for me because there's like, man, I don't know. It's like a tie. It's like a 30-way tie. You know,
Yeah,
I don't really never really played favorites with music in that kind of sense. So I always have a tough time with these. You know, because I feel I don't know. I just get in my head about saying oh no, but it was that one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really off the top of my head. You asked me, and I just thought about those Thrice CPs and how cool that whole thing was. So we'll go with that for now.
yeah, for sure. It's hard to pick. I brought it up because I'm able to choose my favorite EP. It's The Pain of Truth, Age of Apocalypse split.
Hey, there you go.
Phenomenal, phenomenal stuff. We're running a little short on time here, unfortunately. I just want to thank you again. It's been such an honor. You're a legend in New Jersey, the whole metal scene. Is there anything you'd like to leave off with for the fans?
No, I just like thank you. You know, obviously, I never thought I'd be doing this as extreme as I am. So, like anyone who's into what I do, obviously, I appreciate it more than you probably realize because you've given me the opportunity to make music for a living, and that's the coolest in the world. You know, like I don't take it for granted ever. So I appreciate everyone who likes the records I make or the bands I'm in. It's awesome.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate your time and best of luck with everything.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.